everyone. Matt here on another edition of Ask Ron. Ron, how you feeling today?
I'm doing just fine, Matt.
Good, good. That's what I like to hear. All right, we have 6 questions today.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first one we have is from Gary, who's up in Utah.
Utah, okay.
Gary says, Ron, I had a conversation with the seller last week, and after we got through the big 3 and had an agreement, I stated I would start making payments in 90 days. He said, wait a minute, you said I would have no responsibility for the house after we closed.
Why did you say that on the telephone? You don't ever say that till you get out to the house and you're almost through with all the negotiations, and that's not how you say it anyway, for crying out loud. You are a good example of what comes out of your mouth will destroy your deals or make you rich, one of the two. You never say that on the telephone, for crying out loud. That's when I sit down and I start filling out an agreement and I'm filling in the blanks. If this is August, okay, you're going to stay in the house till the end of August, right? Or whenever that is. All right. Well, then you just calculate in your head, what's the 3rd month after that? Oh, my first payment will be and doing the blank month after that. And that's when you handle that. That's after you've already got everything else done and in their mind, the house is sold. Oh, I don't know how much that mistake cost you, but I'll guarantee you it was way more than my boot camp.
Yeah, that is for sure. So Gary, he finishes up to say, how should he handle it? Should he have his attorney handle it, or should he just make the payments until he can find a lease option buyer?
How should he handle what exactly?
This situation.
So I don't know what that means because he's already bloated. So what does that mean? Did he have to agree to start making the payments 30 days after closing, or what? If that's the case, then that's the case. You live with it. You should give you plenty of time to get a tenant buyer in there. But if it doesn't, you make a payment, for crying out loud. That's how you handle it. That's why I wanted that extra time built in there, so you have plenty of time before you have to start making a payment. Chalk this one up to lessons learned.
All right, there we go, Gary. The next question we have is from Mario, who's up in British Columbia.
Okay.
Mario says, hi, Ron. What's your wholetail formula?
Wholetail formula?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a wholetail formula. Well, maybe I do. I would take about, let's say it's going to cost me $40,000 to renovate the property. And I'm talking US dollars here now. I don't know what that is in Canadian now. Probably $80 or something like that. I don't know. So let's say it's going to cost 40 grand to renovate it. Let's make it 30 grand, because if you're going to wholetail it, it's got to be probably somewhere close to livable at the very least. It can't be really, really, really atrocious, or it'll drive away the owner occupants. 30 grand doesn't repair much anymore. I would probably, in my mind, take the after repaired value, and maybe knock off 20 grand of it, give or take. Because 30 grand that I would spend is probably more like 10 grand they would spend, because all they got to do is buy the materials, And then I'd put it out there at that. And then I'd have a plan 2 available, that if it didn't go in the first 30 days, what am I going to do then? And I could lower the price some and leave it out there, or if necessary, it gives me plenty of time to figure out if I want to renovate it or not, and more than enough time to get the estimates. You should have a contractor look at the house before you close on it, and give you an estimate of what it would cost to repair it. But that's after you get a contract, but before you close. So you already have that. So I simply put it out there and just keep lowering your price till it's gone, but start high. This market is already turning. I don't know what it is in Canada, but it's already turning here. We better, if you want to sell for cash, you better get out there while you can, because those prices, I just saw on the news a few minutes ago that the average house value has dropped $100,000 in the last 2 months alone.
Wow.
Here.
The market's getting crazy.
Well, it's turning fast.
Mm-hmm. All right.
As I predicted, but of course, nobody is going to remember what I predicted. I'm not a talking head on television.
All right, moving on to the next question we have. It is from Renee in Tennessee.
Mhm.
Renee says, needing to raise rent in 2 months when a lease ends. I already know that the tenants are going to balk. Should I A, even offer a lease purchase to them? B, continue with a new 12-month lease to pay increase or move? Or C, not renew the lease, therefore converting to month and advertise for a lease tenant buyer?
Well, actually, you could do all one of the above. You're just going to have to decide what you think is best for you. Me, I'm never going to put a tenant in a house. They're always going to be a tenant buyer, but you've already got one in there. I assume it was a tenant buyer. I'm not sure. I didn't get that in the question, was it? I'm not sure if they got a big deposit out of them when they put them in there or not. Well, it doesn't really matter because technically that deposit is forfeited at that time. So if that is the case, I would do nothing and tell them, you can stay in the house and I'll still give you credit for the deposit when you buy, and let it go. If that is not the case, I would absolutely, frankly, I'd move them. Well, I'd give them a chance to become a tenant buyer first.
Mhm.
But if they're whining about the rent, they're not going to be a tenant buyer and put up a big non-refundable option deposit. So I'd frankly just give them notice to move, and I'd give them the notice to move before, I don't know what your state law is, but let's say it was Florida, and if they were paying their rent, that's one notice. But if they're not paying their rent, that's another notice. I can give them a notice to move 15 days prior to when their next rent is due. I mean, that'd be kind of short notice, but the law says that they have to get at least 15 days notice. And I don't need a cause. I don't need a reason. I can just ask them to leave. And so in my case, I would move them out and go for a tenant buyer. That would be my choice. But, I don't really have all of the facts here. And this is assuming that you at least give them the chance first, but I don't see much chance of them doing it.
Got it. All right. Let's see. The next one we have is from Brian, who's in Colorado.
Brian.
Brian says, hi, Ron. So I was talking with a guy I work with the other day, and he was stating that Blackstone has put aside $50 billion for the impending crash. What do you think will happen? If so, what do you think the impact will be?
What do I think will happen? Okay. Now, Brian, you know that my opinion is absolutely worthless on this subject, as is every single one you will see on the talking head television shows. Okay. Nobody knows the answer to that question, and they're all just guessing and hoping they're guessing right. Okay. So I'll guess and hope that I'll guess right, but I'm not running for public office, so it don't matter to me whether I'm right or wrong here on my guess. All right. Okay. There is, in my opinion, no chance that the prices of houses aren't going to start declining again. With interest rates going up, it's a given with that alone. And then you got the inflation thing on top of that. Less people are going to be buying houses. The whole market is already changing. The stock market is down. I mean, just look around. In fact, if you want a true picture, just go watch Fox News for a while and you'll get a true picture of what's going on out there. Unfortunately, the half of the country that are watch the other channels are not presented with the bad news, so they don't really get going on and how fast it's going on. So you're going to have you're already in a recession, regardless of what the White House says. You're already in a recession, period, point blank. So it's starting to turn, and I think it's going to turn very fast, to be honest with you, because of the inflation and because of the high interest rates. The only upside is that there's a huge housing shortage out there still, so that might slow it down some. But hey, it's not a big secret. I've been preaching it for a long time now. It's going to turn. I just didn't know when. Well, now is the time. Now is when. So good news for real estate investors, though, because as the market warms up, warms up. In other words, not the hot market we've been in. Way easier to buy houses from sellers. And when you're putting people in houses, on lease options or with owner financing. It's always been easy to do that, even when the market was really bad. So, you know, you got the best of both worlds. You got sellers that are going to get more motivated, and you got more and more buyers that cannot qualify at the bank. So you're here in the middle, you're the gatekeeper. Swoop in and build a fortune from the chaos that you didn't create and you can't control, but you can darn sure take advantage of it. One thing, do not personally guarantee debt. I have been preaching this, preaching it. That is the one biggest mistake you can make. And all those people that have been doing that are about to find out how important it is they stay out of the clutches of the banks and not be a slave to anyone in their business. I don't need banks to buy. I do not need banks to sell. I don't need anybody's permission except the sellers. And that's the way you want to run your business. And that's what makes you recession proof.
All right. That was a great answer, Ron. All right. Next question we have 2 more questions. These are the last questions, and they're from Dennis, who's in the United Arab Emirates.
Wow. That's probably farthest away we've ever had anybody ask a question, isn't it?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Setting records over here. All right. Dennis says, I have a couple who has been lease optioning from me for the last few years. The option has basically ran out, but have allowed them to stay in the house since they are paying rent. As you know, rents and values have significantly gone up. How do I renegotiate new terms?
Well, I really don't, to be honest with you, but I would raise the rent. Okay. I raised my rents here a few months ago, and it's been a long time since I raised them. I probably should have raised them a long time ago. Okay. I didn't care, or I would have done it, but I don't move tenants out just because their option expired. That's for sure. In fact, I don't think I've got a live option out there right now. They've all expired, but the tenants are still in there and they're still paying it. I just had one move out, been in there for 12 years. Option expired 11 years ago. So for 12 years, they paid off the house, and I never got a call from them about repairs. So finally in 12 years, they decided to move. And that's the kind of the way my business is. We just put them in there and set it and forget it and don't hear about them until they're ready to move. Normally, every once in a while, one of them actually buy, but it's very rare. But when it comes to the rents, you do need to raise the rents applicable. And you're right, rents have shot up here in the last year. Where they're going to go from here, I don't know. But traditionally, when recessions come, rents are stable, and if anything, they even go up. So we'll see.
All right. And his last question is, I have a lease option with another couple. Their option expired as well. Rent went up, valued as well, but they are getting a divorce. Both want to keep the property and continue paying, and then hopefully cashing out at some point. I have already told them that they should decide who wants to continue, and I will work with whichever person, but would need to update price and rent. Is there anything else I should be thinking about? What if they can't decide?
Well, frankly, I think I just answered that question. I'm not going to move them out. I'm not going to get in the middle of their war. I don't care where the rent comes from, him or her, as long as it comes. The minute it doesn't come, however, I'll be filing an eviction if they're not out. If I can't, peacefully just tell them to get out. But as to renewing it, I don't know. I don't renew them. I just keep on collecting the rent, raise the rents when necessary. That's just a notice you send to them to raise the rent. So I'm not sure where the real problem is here. If you get the money, keep it. If you want to raise the rent, send them a notice. Let nature take its course. And then if they move out, then you know what to do. Do it all over again. Don't make it difficult. Everybody wants to complicate everything. It's not that complicated.
All right, Ron, I think that was it. That's all we have for today.
That's all. I'm kind of in a grouchy mood today, aren't I? Huh?
I wouldn't go that far now.
I'm surprised the grouch monitor didn't go up today. Especially on that first question. That one got me. That one set the stage. Oh, I hate it. Somebody says something stupid like that and blows a perfectly good deal. But hey, it's part of training. Now, I'd never said anything stupid when I was growing up my whole life there. I never lost one single deal because of what comes out of my mouth. At least that's the best of my recollection. Okay,
There we
Um,
go.
But my recollection ain't so good anymore, so that's not true. I lost a ton of them. So give yourself credit. At least you're out there doing it, and don't listen to this grouchy old man. That was a real tough answer on him. All right. I'll see you guys next week. Out there and make something happen.